So it was 1988. I was in middle school, and I was rocking the crimped hair and the paisley vest. 80s ladies, you rocked it too, I know you did. And in all my 80s glory, I was standing on the steps of the Capitol building in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, and I was there to deliver a speech on youth leadership. And as I looked out at the crowd, I saw classmates and teachers and my parents who were huge cheerleaders in my life. And I realized I also had the attention of Pennsylvania's statesmen and women who were there to listen to me. And it was at that moment that I thought, wow, I really could be a difference maker in this world. I could be someone that can be a positive catalyst for change. It was at that very moment that my passion for the topic of leadership ignited. Now, fast forward 22 years through the crazy twists and turns and the tragedies and the joys of life, and I found myself finally fulfilling that childhood dream by pursuing a doctorate in strategic leadership. And I knew at that moment it was not going to be easy. I was a full-time pharmaceutical sales representative. My children were 3 and 5 years old, and yes, I was about to enter a doctoral program that was full-time, year-round, for the next 4 years of my life. But I had so much passion about the topic of leadership that I would stop at nothing to go after that and pursue that. It was one of the greatest purposes in my life, and I was about to embark on that journey. Now, don't look too closely. I do have permanent dark circles under my eyes for surviving that very challenging but precious time in my life. And at the end of getting my doctorate, you come to the culmination of it and you put out this wonderful final dissertation project. And for me, I had spent the years through my program writing on topics that were very near and dear to my heart. Things like pharmaceutical leadership, women's leadership, Christian leadership. And when it came time for me to do the easy thing and choose one of those things that I have already poured so much research and writing into, what did I do? I did not choose the easy path yet again. I threw it all out the window. And I decided that whatever I was going to pour my time into, because I knew it would be countless amounts of energy and hours, and I was even going to take a sabbatical from my full-time job so that I can come up with some type of meaningful output that would change the world. Remember my dream of being a change maker, and now was my time to do it. Well, I tend to be an external processor. My dear family knows this well. All the little ping-ponging balls going on inside my head at all times, they have to sit and listen to, and they do so graciously. And at this point, as I was wrestling with this whole idea, what am I going to do? What is going to be meaningful? My daughter was now in first grade at the time, and in all the wisdom of a 7-year-old, she says to me, "Mommy, why don't you write about leadership for kids?" Okay. All those balls in my head kind of slowed down. The ping-ponging stopped ricocheting off the walls of my brain, and I looked at her and I said, "Honey, what do you mean?" And again, with such simplicity, she said to me, "Well, shouldn't kids know how to be good leaders too?" It was that very night that the concept of my manuscript and my now published work, A to Z of Being the Best Leader You Can Be, blossomed. And through the many months of working on this project, one realization kept hitting me, that we have the awesome responsibility of raising tomorrow's leaders. Today, we have that responsibility to raise tomorrow's leaders. Why have we not focused on this before? Now, I do have a disclaimer. Before I get to the heart of my message, I do want you to know, and it might be hard for some of you to hear, I do not advocate that every child needs to be or should be class president or team captain. What I do advocate for is that they have natural gifts and strengths within them that they can make an even more positive impact. In fact, it took me 4 years to share and learn what I'm now going to share with you, and that is that effective leadership is about one thing: influence. So what does that mean for you, for me, and for the kids that we may impact? It means that they can make positive, good choices and hope to influence others to make similar positive choices. It really boils down to modeling good character. Doesn't sound so hard, does it? So then you may ask, well, what's our role then in developing kids with good character and building them into tomorrow's leaders? And I'm going to challenge you with 3 things. The first one is probably hard to hear for us. And that is that the onus is on us right now, that we need to model positive behavior for our children. So what does this look like? So if you receive some bad news at work, maybe you didn't get the promotion that you thought you deserved, what's your response? What do the kids in your life hear and see you do? Do they hear you bad-mouthing your employer? Do they hear you sulking and complaining and being negative at the outlook of your whole life now because you didn't receive a promotion you thought you deserved? Or do you take the time and say in front of the children, I'm really disappointed that I didn't get this, but I need to speak with the employer. I'm going to get feedback to find out what I can do differently. And I'm going to have the resolve and I'm going to have the resilience to go after it and do a better job next time. Same situation, 2 very different responses. And trust me, they both speak loud and clear to our children that they will mimic whatever your reactions are. The second thing, we need to provide kids with a roadmap to making good choices. When they fail, and they will fail because they're not perfect, we're not perfect. As much as I want to be this example for exemplary character, I fail all the time, and I try to instill this in my children. And I do have to do the reset button, and we have to do the reset button with our kids sometimes. I mean, do you forgive them when they make mistakes? So whether it's that they're toddlers and they're throwing a temper tantrum in the middle of the grocery store, that's a good one. Or they flunked a test. Or maybe they made a really bad choice on social media. What's your reaction to it? How do you help them navigate this? First of all, forgive them and help them and let them know that they can do a redo. They will be faced with consequences. And as parents, certainly appropriate consequences are needed, but then help them navigate. Talk to them about what they could do differently from a very early age. From that temper tantrum on the floor of the grocery store, you can pull them up and then talk to them. What could you have done differently? What could have you done differently so that you could have passed your test or made a different choice socially? These are things I really believe that we just need to have these honest conversations and allow them to come up with the solutions as well. And the third thing, as much as we envision leaders and traditional leadership being a type A, charismatic, megaphone-holding leader, what our kids need us to hear and understand is that they have unique gifts and abilities and strengths that they can use to positively influence others. So I want to share a few examples that you might not consider traditional leadership traits from my book, and I want you to meet the kids in this book. The first one is Kevin the Kind Leader. How often do you hear kindness as a leadership trait? Well, Kevin influences others around him because he takes the time to lead with compassion and caring. He meets the new kid in school who happens to be in a wheelchair, doesn't deter him one bit, and he wants to make sure that this child feels welcomed, they know their way around the school, and it's important to him to lead with kindness. Others around him see this. Riley, the respectful leader, takes time out of her day to talk to thank, to use good manners with those of whom she interacts with. Even her parents, she uses good manners, and her friends see this. And her friends ask her, why do you always thank the lunch lady for doing her job? And she says, because I respect her and I want her to know I appreciate what she does for us. It's a matter of respect. I don't know if any of you have quiet, shy children, and they may think they don't even have the courage to open their mouth and have a voice half the time. How are they going to influence anyone? Well, Quinn, the quiet leader, demonstrates this by listening in class. When all of her friends are doing a whole lot of talking, she listens and learns. And so when they have an external assignment outside the classroom, no one else knows what to do because they were all talking and not listening. And Quinn comes through and she shares with them what the teacher had said. And the other interesting thing about quiet and shy individuals is that when they finally do have something to say, we should probably listen because it tends to be valuable. So quiet individuals can definitely have influence. Willow, the leader with the winning attitude, when her team is down and one of the teammates in particular is having a really bad game, the other teammates are all complaining, pointing fingers, pointing out all her mistakes and blaming her for losing. Not Willow. She puts her arm around her and she says, you know what? It's more important that we win as a team or lose as a team. You do your best like I know you can do, and just have fun. And they end up pulling off a win, and it's because of her encouraging words and her winning attitude. How important is it to be culturally sensitive today? Chloe takes the time to appreciate and have a greater awareness in the cultural differences of others. One of her good friends in school happens to be Indian, and Chloe goes over to her house, and she takes the time to ask questions about their customs, things that she doesn't understand. She tries their food, and the next day in school, she shares it with her friends and tells them about the cool experience she had just learning about someone else's culture. Hunter, the honest leader, is named after my son, Hunter, and he is the first child, honest to a fault. But this Hunter in this story fails at first. He and his brother tell an untruth, and then they feel the need to cover it up with another untruth and another untruth until they're in a really bad situation. And Hunter decides that he needs to come clean, and he tells his mom what went on from the very beginning. And yes, she forgives him. She deals out what his punishment will be, but she tells him just how proud she is of him, of recognizing the importance of telling the truth. And what an influence to his brother that he stood up and did this. And last but not least, my daughter, Brooke, the brave leader, the inspiration for this book, she learns that it can be fearful and scary, but that sometimes it's very necessary to stand up to that class bully. And especially for those children that feel, again, they don't have the voice to do so, Brooke stands up to the bully, she talks to the teacher, she talks to the principal, and the situation gets dealt with. And what it does is empower all those other children around her to feel like they should have the courage to stand up and not tolerate bullying. I hope by now you can see that leadership is not about some specific mold that you need to fall into. And I know I've put this in the context of parenting primarily, but educators, coaches, grandparents, I want you to hear this loud and clear because you have children in your life that you can influence. And I want you to be able to see in them the gifts and the abilities and the natural strengths that they have so that you can help nurture that and instill confidence in them that they can positively influence others. They're not going to be perfect at all this stuff. We're not perfect at it. But help them to give them the confidence that they need to feel like they can be difference makers. So each child brings order into the world when they fulfill their unique purpose in life, just like we do, just like I did by following my passion and my purpose in leadership. So I'd like to leave you and all the children that you impact with one final thought. Never underestimate your ability to positively influence others. Thank you very much.